Imagine this. It's 2 again. The glow of your phone lights up your face as you scroll through another thread of conversations that never really went anywhere. You stare at a name that once made your heart race. You wonder what you did wrong this time. You wonder why it always feels like you're running after something that keeps walking away. There's a soft ache in your chest that you try to soothe with distraction. A playlist, a new photo, a message you hope will bring them back. We don't notice how easily it happens, how quietly we start bending ourselves to fit into someone else's affection. You start dressing a little differently. You say things you don't mean just to sound agreeable. You hide the parts of yourself that feel too much. You start performing the version of you that you think will be loved. Slowly, without even realizing it, you start disappearing. This is what nobody tells you about chasing love. It isn't about the other person. It's about the story you've built, the one that says you're not enough until someone chooses you. From childhood, most of us are taught that love is something we must earn. Be good, be quiet, be likable. Don't be angry. Don't be too different. And so, as adults, we enter relationships with that same silent belief that love is a reward, not a birthright. And yet, every chase begins with the same hope. Maybe this time, I'll be seen. But here's the tragedy. The more you chase being seen, the less of yourself remains to be seen at all. We've been conditioned to believe that love will finally fix the emptiness inside. That someone else's affection will fill the void left by years of rejection, neglect, or emotional distance. But in that chase, we forget the truth. Love is not a medicine for the parts of us we refuse to meet. It's a mirror, showing us exactly where we've abandoned ourselves. Every time you text someone who only half responds, every time you wait for a reply that never comes, every time you beg for attention that feels just out of reach, you are not chasing them. You are chasing the feeling of being enough. You are chasing the reflection of your own worth in someone else's eyes. But that reflection keeps breaking, because no mirror can hold what you refuse to recognize within yourself. And so you keep running. Running from the silence. Running from the stillness that asks uncomfortable questions. Running from the loneliness that exposes how empty you've become inside. We think love is about finding someone who will finally make us feel whole. But what if that very belief is the reason we never find peace? What if the more we chase love, the more we run from the love we were supposed to build within? There's a strange kind of beauty in the chase. The thrill, the uncertainty, the small highs that come from being desired. But beneath that excitement lies exhaustion. The endless cycle of trying to be enough for someone else. You lose sleep, lose appetite, lose focus. You lose the quiet relationship you once had with yourself. You start depending on someone else's presence to remind you that you exist. And when they leave, it feels like the world collapses, not because you lost them, but because you no longer know who you are without the chase. This is the illusion most of us live under. We call it love, but it's really a longing to escape ourselves. We call it romance, but it's often a transaction, our authenticity traded for approval. It's not that wanting love is wrong. It's human. It's the most human thing in the world to want to be held, to be understood, to be chosen. But when that desire turns into a chase, when your identity starts orbiting around someone else's attention, that love stops being real. It becomes a negotiation. A quiet self-erasure. You start thinking, if I can just do everything right, they won't leave. But that thought alone is the sound of abandonment. Not theirs, but yours. Because real love can never grow from the soil of fear. It can only bloom in the presence of wholeness. Yet we keep running. Running toward another person, hoping they'll save us from the loneliness that only we can heal. We call it love, but deep down, it's fear. Fear of being alone with the person we've avoided the most, ourselves. Maybe that's the truth we've been avoiding. That the love we chase out there is the same love we've been starving to give ourselves. That every desperate text, every anxious overthinking, every attempt to be seen, is just another way of whispering, I don't know how to stay with me. And perhaps that's the great paradox of it all. The more you chase love, the further you drift from the very home it was meant to live in. We keep believing that the right person will finally make us feel whole. But what if love was never meant to complete us? What if love was only meant to reveal where we've been incomplete? And so the story begins not with another chase, but with a pause, a quiet moment between the longing and the reaching, a breath before the next attempt, the place where you finally stop asking, "Who will love me?" and begin to ask, "Why do I keep abandoning myself?" Because maybe that's what we've been running from all along, not the absence of love, but the echo of our own silence, calling us back home. We often think that the act of chasing love is romantic, a testament to passion, persistence, and hope. Movies glorify it. Songs are written about it. The chase has become our proof that we care deeply. But what if the chase isn't proof of love at all? What if it's evidence of a deeper wound, the psychological hunger to be seen, to be validated, to be told that we are finally enough? At the heart of this chase lies the ego's most seductive illusion, that love is something we can earn. That if we become attractive enough, smart enough, gentle enough, whatever enough means in our personal mythology, we will finally deserve to be loved. But love, real love, has nothing to do with deserving. It's not a transaction. It's not a currency that grows with your accomplishments or beauty. Yet, this illusion that love can be earned is the foundation upon which many of our relationships are built. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The chase for love is often that unconscious pattern running our lives. We repeat it in different forms, with different faces, believing that this time will be different. But the pattern is always the same. The more we reach outward for validation, the more disconnected we become from our own inner world. Jung believed that what we fall in love with is not another person, but the reflection of our unintegrated self, what he called the anima or animus. In simpler terms, every person we're drawn to holds the mirror to a part of our psyche that we've disowned. The person who feels magnetic to you, the one who seems to complete you, often embodies qualities you've suppressed in yourself. When you chase them, you're not chasing them. You're chasing a piece of your own soul. But that's the trap. Because as long as those qualities remain unacknowledged within you, the attraction turns into obsession. You crave the person as if they hold your missing half, and when they pull away, it feels like a part of you is being ripped out. You confuse their absence with your own incompleteness. This is why heartbreak feels existential, because it doesn't just break your heart, it shatters your illusion of being whole. Erich Fromm, in The Art of Loving, explained that immature love says, "I love you because I need you," while mature love says, "I need you because I love you." The chase belongs to the first kind. It's born from lack. It's fueled by anxiety. It's the desperate grasp of someone trying to use another human as a lifeboat to escape their own emotional ocean. And yet, we disguise this dependency as romance. We call it devotion. We say things like, "I can't live without you," as if that's the ultimate proof of love, when in truth, it's the confession of dependency. The more you say it, the more you hand over your identity, piece by piece, to someone else's approval. Psychologically, the chase activates the reward system in the brain. Dopamine, anticipation, reward. It's the same mechanism behind addiction. The uncertainty of love, the waiting for a message, the tension between hope and rejection, it all becomes intoxicating. It's not love we're addicted to. It's the feeling of wanting love. The rush of almost having it. The illusion of being close to something that could save us. But here's where the pain deepens. The more addicted we become to that rush, the less tolerance we have for real intimacy. Because real intimacy requires stillness, the very thing we've been avoiding. It requires honesty, vulnerability, the willingness to be seen as we are, not as the persona we've crafted to be loved. And when you've built your identity around the chase, the silence of real connection feels unbearable. So you keep running. From one person to another, from one fantasy to the next. You keep searching for the person who will finally make you stop running. But each time, the pattern repeats. The attraction, the obsession, the disappointment. And each time, the truth waits quietly underneath. It was never them you were chasing. It was the parts of yourself you've left behind. Nietzsche once wrote that one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. In the context of love, that chaos is our inner fragmentation, the unhealed wounds, the unresolved fears, the self-abandonment we've mistaken for passion. We think love will calm that chaos, but real transformation happens only when we face it, not by chasing someone else, but by standing still long enough to feel it. And then there's the fear, the ancient, primal fear of being unseen. For many, love becomes a survival strategy. We learn early that love can be withdrawn. A parent's coldness, a teacher's disapproval, a friend's betrayal, they all leave the same imprint. If I'm not pleasing enough, I'll be abandoned. That childhood logic seeps into adulthood, and suddenly every romantic pursuit becomes an unconscious attempt to rewrite that story, to finally win the love we once lost. But you can't rewrite an old story by chasing new characters. The script doesn't change until you confront the writer, yourself. The philosophers have always pointed toward this truth in different ways. Alan Watts said that trying to control love is like trying to grab water with your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. The chase is just that, control disguised as romance. We chase because we fear losing. We pursue because we cannot bear surrender. We seek love as a way to avoid the terrifying possibility that love is not something to find, but something to become. Every external chase begins with an internal disconnection. When you lose the ability to be with yourself, you look for someone else to fill the silence. When you stop trusting your own worth, you look for someone to confirm it. But the moment you tie your sense of love to another's approval, you've already abandoned yourself. You've built your emotional home on borrowed ground. And this is why so many people live in the cycle of craving and collapse, the high of being desired, followed by the crash of being forgotten. The pattern isn't about love, it's about identity. Who are you when no one is chasing you back? Who are you when the messages stop, when the attention fades, when the reflection disappears? That's the question the chase never lets you answer. Because to answer it, you'd have to stop running. You'd have to turn inward and face the truth that maybe the love you've been searching for was never lost, only buried beneath years of forgetting. So the paradox becomes clear. The more you chase love, the further it runs. Not because love is cruel, but because it's trying to guide you back to where it actually lives, not in someone else's heart, but in your own. Maybe the real journey isn't about finding someone to love you the way you've always wanted. Maybe it's about meeting yourself so fully that you stop needing anyone to prove you're worthy of love. Because only then, when the chase ends and the stillness begins, does love stop being a pursuit and start becoming a presence. And perhaps that's the quiet truth beneath every heartbreak, every failed relationship, every unreturned message. Love was never running from you. You were running from yourself. At some point, the chase ends, not because you've finally caught what you were running after, but because something inside you simply grows tired. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from effort, but from emptiness. You wake up one morning, and the constant reaching, the analyzing, the hoping, it all just feels heavy. The silence that used to terrify you begins to feel like relief. That's where the real transformation begins, in the moment you stop. When you stop running, stop performing, stop begging life to deliver the person who will finally make it all make sense. When you stop trying to prove your worth through someone else's eyes, a strange thing happens. The noise fades. And in that quiet, something you had long buried starts to whisper. It's not a voice of longing this time. It's the voice of return. In that stillness, you begin to see how much of your life was built around being chosen. How many choices you made not because they felt right, but because they made you seem lovable. How often you laughed at jokes that didn't amuse you, said yes when you wanted to say no, softened your edges to avoid rejection. You begin to realize that for years, you've been trading authenticity for acceptance. And the price was always yourself. It hurts to see it, to look back and recognize the moments where you disappeared inside relationships. But that pain isn't punishment. It's clarity. It's the soul's way of guiding you back home. You start to understand that love isn't something that can be given to you in the way you once imagined. No one can hand you a sense of wholeness. No one can make you feel worthy if you've built your identity around unworthiness. Real love, the kind that nourishes, the kind that endures, begins when you stop searching for mirrors and start rebuilding the relationship with the person in the reflection. There's a quiet rebellion in this stage. You begin to reclaim all the small, scattered pieces of yourself that you left behind in the pursuit of love. The hobbies you dropped because they didn't fit your partner's world. The opinions you silenced to keep the peace. The emotions you suppressed because you were afraid they'd make you too much. One by one, you start to bring them back. Not to impress anyone, but to feel whole again. At first, it feels lonely, because it is. The space that used to be filled with other people's energy, attention, and validation is now empty. But over time, that emptiness becomes fertile. The solitude becomes a sanctuary. You start discovering what silence actually sounds like when it isn't the echo of absence but the rhythm of your own being. Viktor Frankl wrote that meaning cannot be pursued, it must ensue as the unintended side effect of one's dedication to something greater than the self. Love works the same way. You cannot chase it and expect it to stay. You can only live in a way that invites it, through presence, purpose, and authenticity. The more you turn inward and nurture your inner world, the more naturally love begins to flow outward. For so long, you believed that love was the destination. But here, in this stillness, you begin to see that love was the path. Every heartbreak was an invitation to return to yourself. Every rejection was life saying, "You are looking in the wrong direction." You start practicing a new form of love, not the romantic, cinematic kind, but the grounded, inward one. It's in the way you speak to yourself when you fail. It's in the way you rest without guilt. It's in the way you stop performing and start allowing. Self-love stops being a slogan and becomes a practice, one small act of self-respect at a time. You learn to sit with your emotions instead of outsourcing them to another person. You start treating your solitude not as a punishment but as a teacher. There's a peace that begins to grow, the kind of peace that comes when you no longer need someone else to remind you of your worth. You realize that the ache for external love was never about romance. It was about connection. And now, that connection has begun, between you and yourself. The philosophers have always hinted at this paradox. Alan Watts said that trying to define yourself is like biting your own teeth. The self cannot be found by searching outward. It's something you remember when you stop resisting your own being. In that remembrance, love begins to take a new shape, not as something you chase, but as something you emanate. There's a subtle transformation happening here. You stop asking, "When will I find the right person?" and start asking, "How can I become someone who feels right to live with, even when I'm alone?" You realize that the most intimate relationship you'll ever have is the one with your own consciousness. Slowly, the emptiness that once felt unbearable starts to feel sacred. The silence that once symbolized rejection now feels like peace. You begin to understand that solitude isn't the absence of love, it's the presence of self. From this space, the world starts to look different. You see how much beauty exists in ordinary moments. A quiet morning, a long walk, the softness of your own breath. You start to trust that life doesn't withhold love. It only withholds the illusions that keep you from experiencing it. This is where the transformation completes its circle. You realize that love is not an event that happens to you, but an awareness that rises within you. When you no longer chase, you no longer lose. You are no longer a seeker in search of home. You have become the home itself. There's no grand epiphany, no cinematic moment of arrival. Just a quiet knowing. A kind of love that doesn't need to be declared because it's felt in the stillness. The love that remains when the need for love dissolves. And in that stillness, you realize you were never unlovable, never broken, never incomplete. You were simply running from the part of yourself that had been waiting all along. The one that doesn't need to chase because it already knows. Love was never out there. It was always you coming back to yourself. Morning light spills through the window. The world looks the same, but you don't. The chase is over. The noise inside your head has softened into something quieter, something almost tender. You no longer wake up wondering who's thinking of you, or who you should try to impress today. Instead, you wake up wondering how you can meet yourself more honestly than you did yesterday. You start to see love differently now, not as a finish line to cross, but as a way of being. Love isn't a prize waiting in someone else's hands, it's the quiet integrity with which you live. It's how you treat yourself when no one's watching. It's how gently you speak to your own insecurities. It's how you forgive yourself for the years you spent chasing people who couldn't see you because you couldn't see yourself. When you stop abandoning yourself, something remarkable happens. You stop craving the kind of love that requires you to shrink. The people and situations that once held power over you begin to fade, not because they've changed, but because your vibration has. You no longer tolerate half-love or performative affection. You no longer chase because you no longer need to. There's a stillness that comes with self-acceptance, not arrogance, not isolation, but peace. You begin to understand what Alan Watts meant when he said, "The meaning of life is just to be alive." You don't have to earn your right to love or to be loved. You simply have to be, fully, presently, unapologetically. Love starts appearing in unexpected places, not as grand gestures, but as gentle truths. It's in the warmth of a friend's laugh. It's in the way you look at the sky and realize you're part of something vast. It's in the simple act of making tea and feeling content in the quiet. Love stops being a story of two and becomes an atmosphere you carry wherever you go. You begin to notice how relationships feel lighter now. You're not entering them from a place of need, but from fullness. You don't chase connection, you attract it. You don't demand love, you share it. And because of that, love becomes effortless. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. It flows naturally when it's not burdened by expectation or fear. You start to trust timing, trusting that what's meant for you won't require running after it. That the people who belong in your life will meet you in your wholeness, not your desperation. There's no more performance, no more waiting for validation. Just presence. Just truth. And perhaps that's what maturity really is. Realizing that love was never about finding someone who completes you. It was about remembering the completeness that was there before the world convinced you to forget. The irony of it all is almost poetic. The moment you stop looking for love, you become it. You realize that love isn't a destination or a person, it's an energy that moves through everything alive. Every breath, every heartbeat, every act of kindness is love taking form. It doesn't ask to be chased, only to be noticed. And now you finally can. So you live differently. You stop rushing. You stop grasping. You stop mistaking attention for affection. You move through the world slower, softer, fuller. You carry a kind of calm that no heartbreak can take from you, because it doesn't come from anyone else. It comes from your alignment with yourself. And when love finds you again, as it inevitably will, it won't arrive to fix you. It will meet you where you already stand whole. There will be no chase, no hunger, no need to prove. Just two people walking side by side, sharing what they've already found within themselves. In that way, love becomes sacred again, not because it's rare, but because it's real. You understand now that real love doesn't start when someone finally says, "I love you." It starts the moment you stop leaving yourself behind. Because that's the truth that all the running, all the heartbreak, all the searching was trying to teach you. You were never meant to chase love. You were meant to remember it. You were meant to become it. And as you walk through life now, quieter, lighter, more whole, you carry that truth like a soft flame inside you. Not to show off, not to impress, but simply to light the way. Real love doesn't arrive when you find someone. It begins when you finally stop abandoning yourself.